The text message arrived at 8:17 on Mother's Day morning, and it changed everything. Mother's Day is for the good moms. You can sit this one out. My daughter Betty's words glowed on my phone screen like a neon sign announcing my failure. No greeting, no softening, just a clean surgical cut. I read it twice, not because I didn't understand, but because I wanted to be absolutely certain this was real. That my own daughter had just uninvited me for Mother's Day with the casual efficiency of canceling a dentist appointment. I'm Laura Thompson. I'm 62 years old. I raised Betty alone after her father Graham died 5 years ago from a sudden heart attack. I worked as a financial officer for 30 years, retired with a modest pension, and thought I'd done everything right. Apparently I was wrong. The message sat there, each word carefully chosen. Good moms. Not real moms. Not deserving moms. Good ones. The vague phrasing gave her room to defend herself. Later she'd say it wasn't personal, that I was being too sensitive, that people misinterpret text messages all the time. But I knew better. I'd taught her that trick myself years ago. How to deliver bad news without taking responsibility. How to soften the blow while still landing the punch. I was a good teacher. She was an excellent student. I sat on my balcony overlooking the river, watching early morning joggers pass by on the waterfront trail. The coffee in my hands had gone cold, but I didn't move to reheat it. My apartment was quiet, too quiet, the way it had been for months now. The river looked peaceful this morning, gray water reflecting gray sky. A lone kayaker paddled against the current, making slow progress. I felt a kinship with that person, working hard, getting nowhere. My phone buzzed again. Another message sliding across the screen. We just want it to be simple. Simple. I turned that word over in my mind like a stone. Simple meant no complications. Simple meant I stayed home without making a fuss. Simple meant they could celebrate without the awkward presence of a mother who apparently wasn't good enough. I thought about the first time Betty had made plans without me. 3 years ago Thanksgiving. She'd casually mentioned they were doing a small thing at her house with her sisters-in-law. When I asked what time to arrive, she'd looked uncomfortable. "Oh, Mom, I thought you'd want to do your own thing. You always said you didn't like big crowds." I had said that. Once, 10 years earlier. But she'd remembered it, weaponized it, used it as permission to exclude me. That's when the pattern started. Birthday dinners I wasn't told about until afterward. Christmas Eve celebrations that were just immediate family, a category that somehow included everyone except me. Mother's Day brunches that were for the important moms, or the fun moms, or now the good moms. Each time I'd absorbed it. Swallowed the hurt. Made excuses for her. She's busy. She's stressed. She's going through a divorce. She needs space. But this morning something inside me shifted. My hands moved to my phone almost automatically. I opened my banking app, the one I'd set up years ago to help Betty when she needed it. The Family Events account, I'd called it. A convenience for those moments when someone needed help with a reservation, a deposit, a last-minute expense. Over the years, that account had funded a lot of Betty's last-minute expenses. I scrolled through the transaction history. Each line told a story. 3,200, Hawaii vacation with her girlfriends. She'd said she needed to decompress after the divorce. I never got a thank you, just photos of her on the beach, cocktail in hand, living her best life. $1,800, living room furniture. She'd claimed her ex took everything in the divorce, left her with nothing. When I visited weeks later, her place looked like a Pottery Barn showroom. $5,400, Emma's Sweet 16 party, my granddaughter's birthday. I'd paid for the venue, the catering, the DJ. Betty had posted dozens of photos on social media, tagged everyone who attended. Everyone except me. The photographer somehow didn't capture a single picture of us together. $850, her business launch party. A new marketing consulting firm she was starting. She'd invited clients, colleagues, potential investors. I'd been there for 30 minutes before realizing I was the only one who hadn't been introduced to anyone. I'd left early. She'd texted later. "Where did you go? I was going to introduce you." $2,100, the car repair she'd claimed was an emergency. The transmission, she'd said. Life or death. I'd transferred the money within an hour. 2 weeks later, I saw Instagram photos of her at a spa resort in Napa Valley. The caption, "Finally treating myself." The total over 5 years came to $47,600. Not once had she asked. Not once had she said, "Mom, can you help me with this?" She'd just used the card I'd given her for emergencies, and everything in Betty's life qualified as an emergency. Except me. I was never the emergency. I was just the ATM that processed transactions without complaint. My finger hovered over the screen. I could see Betty's name listed as an authorized user. One tap and that access would disappear. But my hand was shaking. Not from anger, from fear. Fear of what would happen next. Fear of becoming the bad guy in my daughter's story. Fear of the moment when I would stop being useful and discover if there was anything else holding us together. I thought about my mother, Helen. She'd died 6 years ago in a nursing home alone. I hadn't been there when it happened. I was at a work conference in Chicago, closing a deal I'd been working on for months. My sister Sarah had called me 3 times before I finally picked up. "She's gone, Laura. Mom's gone." I'd taken the first flight home, but I'd been 3 hours too late. The guilt had been crushing. Still was. I visited her grave every month, brought fresh flowers, talked to the headstone like she could hear me. But the truth I never said out loud, I'd been relieved not to be there for the final goodbye. Because then I'd have had to face what I'd done to her. When Mom had gotten sick 10 years ago when she'd asked to come live with me, I'd said no. "There's not enough room," I'd told her. "You'd be more comfortable in assisted living." That was a lie. I had a spare bedroom. I had the space. What I didn't have was the willingness to disrupt my carefully organized life. My career was at its peak. Graham and I had routines, plans, a social life we enjoyed. Mom would have been complicated. So I'd chosen convenience over connection. I'd visited once a month, brought groceries, and paid her bills, convinced myself that financial support was the same as emotional support. And now Betty was doing the exact same thing to me. Was this karma? Was I being punished for how I'd treated my mother? Or had I simply taught my daughter through my own example that love was something you offered conditionally when it was convenient, when it didn't require too much of you? I looked at the message again. Mother's Day is for the good moms. And I realized I hadn't been a good mom to my own mother. But that didn't mean I had to accept being treated this way by my daughter. 2 wrongs wouldn't make a right, but at least 1 wrong could stop here. I made my decision. My thumbs moved across the screen. I typed slowly, making sure each word was exactly right. "Understood. I'll cancel my card for the event." I read it once. No emotion, no explanation. Nothing she could twist into an argument or use to paint herself as the victim. I hit send at 9:47 a.m. Then I opened the banking app and navigated to the authorized users page. Betty's name sat there next to a toggle switch. Active. 1 tap and it would say inactive. I thought about Graham, my late husband. What would he say if he were here? He'd always been the softy, the one who gave in to Betty's requests, who couldn't say no to her batting eyelashes and her please daddy routine. But Graham was gone, and I'd spent 5 years being both parents, trying to be the gentle one and the firm one, and ending up being neither. Just the wallet. The backup plan. The safety net that never got credit when it caught people, only blame when it didn't. I tapped the toggle switch. Betty Thompson Richards removed. The confirmation screen appeared. "Are you sure you want to remove this user's access?" I was sure. I confirmed. The status changed instantly. What had taken 5 years to build that whole complicated web of financial support and silent expectations vanished in a single tap. My phone lit up almost immediately. "Why would you even say that?" I didn't answer. Another message: "We already made arrangements." Of course they had. Arrangements that assumed I would play my role. The invisible mother who paid for everything but wasn't good enough to actually attend. The phone rang. Betty's name appeared on the screen. I let it ring until it stopped. A text followed: "Don't do this today." Today mattered because there was an audience. Because Betty had already posted her plans on social media, had probably told all her friends about the special Mother's Day brunch with the good ones. She'd planned the narrative, assigned the roles, and my job was to stay home quietly while still funding the performance. I picked up my coffee mug, dumped the cold coffee down the sink, and poured a fresh cup. My hands had stopped shaking. What I felt wasn't anger. It was clarity. For the first time in years, I could see the situation exactly as it was without the fog of guilt or hope obscuring my vision. My phone buzzed again. I turned it face down on the counter and walked back to my balcony. The kayaker had made it around the bend in the river and was out of sight now. Progress, even slow progress, eventually got you somewhere. I sat down with my fresh coffee and watched the morning unfold. Families walking together, couples holding hands. A small boy running ahead of his parents, then running back when they called his name. Normal people living normal lives, probably dealing with normal family complications that didn't involve being uninvited from holidays you helped pay for. My phone continued buzzing on the counter inside. I could hear it, a steady rhythm of demands and expectations, and the slow realization that something had changed. Let it ring, I thought. Let them figure it out. At 10:15 a.m., I finally went back inside and picked up my phone. 17 missed calls, 23 text messages, all from Betty. The messages had evolved. Started with confusion. What do you mean, cancel the card? Mom, seriously, what's going on? Then shifted to irritation. This is ridiculous. You're being dramatic. Can you please just be normal for once? And finally landed on panic. We're about to order. The reservation is in 45 minutes. Mom, please. I sat at my kitchen table with my journal, a leather-bound book Graham had given me 20 years ago. For your thoughts, he'd said, the ones you don't say out loud. I'd filled 3 of these journals over the years. Private conversations with myself, tracking moments I couldn't share with anyone else. I opened to a blank page and wrote today's date, May 14th, 2023, Mother's Day. Then I wrote, where did I go wrong with Betty? The question sat there stark and accusing. I stared at it for a long moment before I started writing the answer. I think I went wrong when I started confusing financial support with emotional support. When I wrote checks instead of having difficult conversations. When I paid for things to avoid conflict. But I also went wrong earlier than that. When Betty was young, watching me with my own mother. Watching me keep Grandma Helen at arm's length. Watching me prioritize work and convenience over connection. Betty learned from me that people are disposable when they become inconvenient. That love is something you offer when it's easy and withdraw when it's not. I taught her that. I paused pen hovering over the paper. Then I wrote something I'd never admitted before I wasn't there when my mother died. I was closing a business deal. I chose work over being with her in her final hours. And I felt guilty about that every single day since. Is this my punishment? Is Betty treating me the way I treated my mother? Or worse, is this just the natural consequence of the example I set? My phone buzzed again. Another call from Betty. I let it go to voicemail. I went to my bookshelf and pulled out an old photo album. Inside were pictures from Betty's childhood. Her first day of school, gap-toothed smile backpack almost bigger than she was. Her high school graduation serious in her cap and gown, already looking past the camera toward her future. Her wedding to Jason, the marriage that lasted 5 years before imploding. In almost every photo I was in the background, slightly out of focus, present but not prominent, the supporting character in Betty's life story. When had I become optional? I could trace it back to specific moments 3 years ago when Betty got divorced. I'd offered to help, to be there for her. She'd said, I need space to process this on my own. Space had turned into distance. Distance had calcified into separation. 2 years ago when I'd tried to give her advice about her new business venture. Mom, things work differently now. Your experience is from like the 80s. I was 59, not ancient, and I'd retired from a successful career in finance. But to Betty, I was obsolete, a relic from a previous generation with nothing relevant to contribute. Last year when I'd suggested we take a trip together, just the 2 of us. I don't really do the whole travel with parents thing anymore, Mom. That's kind of weird. Weird. Wanting to spend time with my daughter was weird. And 6 months ago, the moment I now recognized as the beginning of the end, I'd driven to Betty's house unannounced with soup. She'd been posting on social media about being sick, dying of this flu, send help, lol, so I'd made chicken soup from scratch, the recipe my mother used to make for me. When Betty opened the door, she'd looked annoyed, not grateful. Mom, you can't just show up without calling. I brought soup. I thought, I know what you thought, but I have it handled. I'm fine. The post said, the posts are just posts, Mom. You don't need to take everything so literally. She'd taken the soup but hadn't invited me in. I'd stood on her doorstep for 30 seconds before realizing she wasn't going to. She'd thanked me with the tone people use when dismissing solicitors. As I drove home that day, I'd felt something crack inside me. Not a dramatic break, just a hairline fracture. The beginning of something coming apart. Now, sitting with my journal and my memories and my phone full of increasingly desperate messages, I realized that fracture had been widening for 6 months. Today, it had finally split completely. My phone rang again. This time it was my older sister, Sarah. I answered. Laura? Sarah's voice was tight. What in God's name are you doing? I'm sitting in my kitchen having coffee. Betty called me. She's hysterical. She says you canceled the card for the brunch. I did. Why would you do that? I took a breath. Did she tell you what she said to me this morning? She said there was a misunderstanding. There wasn't. She told me Mother's Day is for good moms and I should sit this one out. Silence on the other end of the line. Sarah, did you hear me? She said that word for word. More silence. Then, well, maybe she didn't mean she meant it. Laura, she's under a lot of stress. The divorce, her business raising Emma alone. So was I interrupted. When Graham died, when I had to rebuild everything, when I was raising Betty as a single parent, nobody made allowances for my stress. That's different. How Sarah struggled. You're the mother, you're supposed to rise above. Rise above being told I'm not good enough. Rise above funding a celebration I'm not invited to. Exactly how far above am I supposed to rise, Sarah? You're making this bigger than it needs to be. Or maybe I've been making it smaller than it is, for years. What does that mean? It means I'm done. Done absorbing disrespect. Done being the ATM everyone forgets about until they need a withdrawal. Done being the good mom who says yes to everything and gets thanked for nothing. Betty appreciates you. Does she? When was the last time she said so? Sarah couldn't answer. When was the last time she invited me to something without me having to ask? When was the last time she called just to talk, not because she needed something? You're being unfair. Am I, or am I just finally being honest? I heard voices in the background on Sarah's end. She covered the phone, spoke to someone, then came back. I have to go. We're heading to the brunch. You're going? Betty's my niece. Of course I'm going. And there it was, the final confirmation. My own sister was choosing to attend the Mother's Day brunch I'd been uninvited from, the one I was apparently still expected to pay for. Have a nice time, I said quietly and hung up. My phone immediately started buzzing with texts from Sarah. Don't be like this. You're hurting everyone. This isn't like you. That last one made me pause. This isn't like you. Maybe that was the problem. Maybe I'd been like me for too long, accommodating, flexible, endlessly forgiving, and it had taught everyone around me that I had no limits, no boundaries, no breaking point. Maybe it was time to be different. I looked at the clock. 11:30 a.m. They'd be at River House dining room soon, ordering drinks, posting photos, living their best lives. I imagined the scene: Betty, my sister Sarah, my younger sister Jennifer, and Emma, my 16-year-old granddaughter, laughing together, toasting the good moms. Betty would probably post a photo with some caption about gratitude and family. She'd tag everyone except me. And when someone asked, "Where's your mom?" in the comments, she'd have a prepared answer. Something vague about me being busy or not feeling well. Something that made me the one who chose not to be there. The truth would never make it onto Instagram. My phone rang again. Unknown number. I answered this time. Ms. Thompson, a young male voice, professional but uncertain. This is Daniel from River House Dining Room. I'm calling about the reservation under your family's name. My heart rate picked up. Yes. There's been an issue with the card on file. It was declined. They've told us you're on your way with another card. I'm not coming. A pause. Background noise, glasses, clinking conversation, the ambient sound of a busy restaurant. I see, so regarding the payment for the table, my daughter Betty will be handling that today. Another pause, longer this time. The reservation and pre-orders were put on your account. Your card has been used here regularly for family events. That card is no longer authorized. Any charges today will need to be handled by my daughter directly. I could hear him processing this understanding dawning. I'll let them know. Thank you for clarifying, Ms. Thompson. Thank you, Daniel. I hung up and sat very still, waiting for what would come next. It took exactly 4 minutes. My phone exploded. Calls from Betty, from Sarah, from Jennifer. Text messages flooding in faster than I could read them. What did you do? The card isn't working. This is embarrassing. People are staring. Fix this now. I set the phone on the table and watched it vibrate and light up over and over like a desperate creature trying to escape. For the first time in 5 years, maybe in my entire life, I felt something like peace. Not happiness, not satisfaction, just peace. The peace that comes from finally stopping a pattern that was destroying you. My phone lit up with an incoming call. Emma, my granddaughter, I answered. Grandma, Her voice was small, uncertain. "What's happening?" "Hi, sweetheart. Mom is freaking out. She's saying you cut off the card." "I did." "Why?" I could hear Betty in the background, her voice sharp and rising. I could picture Emma stepping away from the table, finding somewhere quiet to call me. "Because sometimes," I said gently, "people need to learn to take care of their own responsibilities." "Mom says you're punishing her. Do you think that's what I'm doing?" Emma was quiet for a moment. At 16, she was old enough to see through the narratives adults constructed, old enough to notice things. I don't know. But Grandma, can you just fix it? Everyone's looking at us. Emma, I love you very much. But the answer is no. Grandma, I need you to understand something. What your mother did this morning was wrong. And I'm not going to pretend it wasn't by paying for a celebration I was specifically uninvited from. But I know this is hard. I know you're uncomfortable. But sweetheart, sometimes the right thing is uncomfortable. And this is the right thing. I could hear Emma breathing, processing. Then quietly, "What did Mom say to you?" I told her. Another long pause. Then, "That's really mean." "Yes, it was. I didn't know she said that." "I know you didn't. I wouldn't have let her. You're not responsible for your mother's choices. You never were. She's really mad right now." "I know." "Are you guys going to be okay?" That question from my 16-year-old granddaughter asking if her mother and grandmother would survive this broke something in me that I'd been holding together through sheer force of will. "I don't know, Emma. I honestly don't know. But I hope so. I love you, Grandma." "I love you too, sweetheart. So much." After we hung up, I sat with my cooling coffee and let myself feel the full weight of what I'd done. I'd drawn a line, set a boundary, said no. And I had no idea what would come next. But for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid to find out. I arrived at River House at 1:45 p.m. I didn't rush, didn't hurry. I took my time getting dressed, a simple gray dress, modest heels, my grandmother's pearl earrings. I applied makeup carefully, fixed my hair, looked at myself in the mirror, and saw a woman who knew exactly what she was doing. My phone had finally stopped buzzing around 1 p.m. The silence felt ominous, like the pause before a storm breaks. I drove to the restaurant slowly, taking the scenic route along the river. The spring afternoon was beautiful, trees in full bloom, families at the waterfront, park life happening all around me, while mine was imploding. When I pulled into this parking lot at River House, I saw Betty's car immediately. Silver SUV still had the dealership plates. Another purchase I'd helped finance 6 months ago when her old car died. The old car had been 3 years old. It hadn't died. Betty had just wanted an upgrade. I sat in my car for a moment, gathering myself. Through the restaurant's large windows, I could see them at a corner table. Betty, Sarah, Jennifer, Emma. Champagne glasses, empty plates. The relaxed posture of people who thought the crisis had passed, that Mom would eventually cave and handle everything. They were wrong. I got out of the car, locked it, and walked toward the entrance. Daniel met me at the door. Early 20s, wearing the restaurant's standard white shirt and black vest. His face registered recognition and something like relief. "Ms. Thompson, thank you for coming." "How bad is it?" He glanced toward the table, lowered his voice. "The bill is $1.287. They've ordered twice more since we spoke. When I told them the card wasn't working, Ms. Richards assured me you'd be here to handle it." "I'm here, but not to handle it the way she thinks." Daniel's eyes widened slightly. "I see. I'll pay for the basic meals. Nothing extra. Can you itemize it for me?" "Of course." He looked nervous now. "Ms. Thompson, I should warn you there's been some tension at the table. Your daughter has made several phone calls. She seems quite upset." "I imagine she is." He led me through the dining room. Several diners glanced up. Some looked away quickly. Others watched with undisguised curiosity. Small-town restaurant, Sunday afternoon, not much else happening. We were the entertainment. Betty saw me when I was still 10 feet away. Her face went through a rapid transformation, relief, then confusion, then something harder. She stood up so fast her chair scraped loudly against the floor. "Mom, finally. There's been a huge misunderstanding." I held up one hand. She stopped mid-sentence. I pulled out the empty chair at the end of the table and sat down. Took my time settling in, placing my purse on my lap, adjusting my napkin, making them wait. Sarah looked uncomfortable. Jennifer wouldn't meet my eyes. Emma watched me with an expression I couldn't quite read, part worry, part something else. Curiosity, maybe. Or respect. "Daniel," I said calmly, "I'll need the itemized bill, please." "Right away." He retreated quickly, grateful to escape. Betty leaned across the table. "Mom, what is going on? Why did you cancel the card? Why are you being like this?" I looked at her directly, really looked at her. My daughter, 38 years old. Her father's eyes, my stubborn chin, wearing a designer blouse that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. "I'm being like myself," I said quietly. "Maybe for the first time in a long time." "That doesn't answer my question." "Yes, it does. You're just not listening." Sarah cleared her throat. "Laura, maybe we should talk about this at home." "We're talking about it here. Now." Daniel returned with the bill printed out. I put on my reading glasses, another reminder that I was old obsolete from a different generation, and studied the charges. Appetizers $120. Crab cakes. Oysters. Bruschetta trio. Main courses $340. 4 entrees ranging from salmon to filet mignon. Champagne $360. 2 bottles of Veuve Clicquot. Desserts $190. Dessert sampler for the table. Individual chocolate soufflés. Additional orders $277. 3rd bottle of champagne. Espresso drinks. Petty 4. Subtotal $1,287. With tax and tip $1,608. I looked up from the bill. "Who ordered the 3rd bottle of champagne?" Silence. "It was after I called," I continued. "After Daniel told you the card wasn't working. You ordered more." Betty's face flushed. You thought I'd pay for it anyway." "Because I always do." "You're our mother." "Yes, I am. The mother who wasn't good enough to be invited today." The words hung in the air like smoke. Jennifer shifted in her seat. "Laura Betty told us about the text. She didn't mean it the way it sounded." "Really?" I turned to Betty. "What did you mean?" I just meant that I needed a day without—" She struggled, searching for words that wouldn't sound as bad as what she'd actually said. "Without me," I finished. "You needed a day without your mother, but not without my credit card." "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" I slid the bill across the table to her. "Here's what I'm going to do. I'll pay for the main courses. $340. That's reasonable. That's what was ordered before the crisis." "Mom." "The champagne. The desserts. The 3rd bottle you ordered out of spite. That's yours." Betty's face went white. "I don't have—" "That's not my problem." "You can't be serious." "I've never been more serious in my life." Sarah leaned forward. "Laura, this is ridiculous. Just pay the bill and we can all talk about this later." "No." I didn't raise my voice. Didn't need to. The single word carried enough weight on its own. "No?" Sarah looked shocked. "I won't pay for a celebration I was specifically told I wasn't good enough to attend. I won't finance my own exclusion. And I won't teach my daughter that she can treat me however she wants, as long as she assumes I'll clean up the mess afterward." Emma spoke for the first time. "Grandma, I didn't know what Mom texted you. I swear." I softened slightly, looking at my granddaughter. "I know, sweetheart. You're not responsible for this. But I don't want you guys to fight." "We're not fighting. We're finally being honest." Betty stood up, voice rising. "This is insane. You're embarrassing us. Everyone is staring." "Then perhaps you should have thought about that before you invited me to subsidize a party I couldn't attend." "I never asked you to pay." I looked at her steadily. "Betty, you've been using my card for 5 years. You used it for this reservation. You've taken $47,600 from the family account. You've never asked permission. You've never said thank you. You just take. And I let you because I thought that's what mothers do. But apparently I'm not a good enough mother for that anymore." The number $47,600 landed like a bomb. Sarah gasped. 47,000. Jennifer's mouth fell open. Even Emma looked shocked. Betty's face cycled through emotions: shock, embarrassment, anger, fear. "You were keeping track. You were counting every—" "I'm a financial officer, Betty. I always keep track. But I never said anything because I thought you needed the help. I thought I was being a good mother by supporting you." You are? Then why am I not good enough to celebrate with today?" Silence, heavy and suffocating. Betty's eyes filled with tears. Real tears, not the manipulative kind. Because, her voice broke, because every time I'm with you, I feel like I'm failing. That stopped me. What, see, you're so perfect, so together. Dad dies, and 6 months later you're redecorating your apartment. You're joining clubs. You're fine. You're always fine. And I'm drowning. I'm barely keeping it together. My business is failing. My ex left me with $40,000 in debt. I can barely afford Emma's school supplies. And you just exist in this perfect bubble where nothing touches you. Her voice was rising, cracking, years of resentment pouring out. Every time I see you, I'm reminded of how much I'm failing. You ask about my business, it's failing. You ask about my finances, I'm broke. You ask about my life, it's a disaster. And I can't keep facing that. So I pushed you away. Not because you're not a good mother, because I'm not a good daughter. The restaurant had gone quiet. Other diners pretending not to listen while listening intently. I sat very still, processing what she'd said. Then quietly, "You think I was fine when your father died? You looked fine." I was performing Betty. I was dying inside. I cried in the shower every morning for 8 months so you wouldn't hear me. I took sleeping pills. I saw a therapist twice a week. I wasn't fine. I was devastated. But I kept functioning because I thought that's what you needed from me. Betty stared at me. "You never told me. You never asked." The words fell between us like stones into water rippling outward. Sarah broke the silence. "Maybe we should all take a breath." "No," I interrupted. "We've been taking breaths for years, avoiding the real conversation, pretending everything is fine when it's not." I turned back to Betty. "I need you to understand something. I love you. I have always loved you. But love without boundaries isn't love. It's enabling. It's teaching you that you can treat people however you want, as long as they love you enough to absorb it. I don't treat you badly. You told me I wasn't a good mother and then expected me to pay for your champagne brunch." Betty flinched. "That's not okay. It's never been okay. And I'm done pretending it is." I stood up. Daniel appeared immediately holding the payment tablet. "I'll pay for the main courses," I said. $3.40. "Mom, please. And Betty," I looked at my daughter. "You have 30 days to return the $5,000 you took from Emma's savings account." The table went silent again. This time the silence had a different quality. Shocked. Horrified. Jennifer looked at Betty. "What is she talking about?" Betty's face drained of color. "I was going to pay it back. You took Emma's money." Sarah's voice was sharp with disbelief. Emma stood up slowly. "Mom, it was temporary," Betty said quickly. "Just a loan. For the business. I was going to replace it before anyone—" "That was Grandpa's money," Emma said quietly. "For college. And you'll get it back when—" Emma's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. "When Mom—" "It's been 18 months. Betty couldn't answer. I signed the payment screen, handed it back to Daniel. "Thank you for your patience." "Of course, Ms. Thompson." I picked up my purse, looked at my daughter one more time. 30 days, Betty, for Emma's money. If you don't, I'll pursue legal action." "You wouldn't." "Try me." I walked out of River House with my head high, my shoulders straight. Behind me, I could hear Betty starting to cry, Sarah's voice trying to calm her, Emma saying, "I want to go home." I didn't look back. I got in my car, drove 3 blocks, pulled into a grocery store parking lot, and let myself shake. The calls started before I even got home. Sarah first. "Laura, what the hell was that?" That was me setting a boundary. "You humiliated her?" In public, in front of Emma. She humiliated herself. I just stopped covering for her. She's your daughter. And I'm her mother, the one who apparently isn't good enough for Mother's Day, but is good enough to finance it. "You didn't have to bring up the money, not in front of everyone." When should I have brought it up, Sarah, in private, where she could explain it away, make excuses, blame her circumstances? She's struggling. So am I. So was I when Graham died. Nobody made accommodations for my struggle. Nobody said, "Oh, Laura's having a hard time, let's give her a pass on basic decency." Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then, "She took Emma's college money." "Yes." "Jesus, Laura, why didn't you tell me?" "Because it wasn't my story to tell. until today. What are you going to do? I'm going to give her 30 days to make it right. And if she doesn't, I'm going to make sure Emma gets that money back, even if I have to take Betty to court. You'd sue your own daughter? I'd protect my granddaughter. There's a difference. Sarah sighed heavily. This family is falling apart. No, this family is finally being honest about how broken it's been for years. After Sarah hung up, Jennifer called. Then Betty's best friend, Maria. Then Pastor David Williams from the church Betty attended when it was convenient. Each conversation followed the same pattern. 1. Shock at what I'd done. 2. Concern for Betty's feelings. 3. Gentle suggestions that I was overreacting. 4. Zero acknowledgement that Betty had done anything wrong. By the time Pastor David called, I was exhausted. Laura, I've been asked to help mediate this situation. By whom? Betty and several concerned family members. Mediate what exactly? The conflict between you and your daughter. There's no conflict, Pastor. There's a boundary. Betty doesn't like it. That's not the same thing. She's very hurt, Laura. She feels you've rejected her. I laughed. Actually laughed. That's interesting, because this morning she rejected me. Told me I wasn't good enough for Mother's Day, but I'm the one who's done the rejecting. She says that was a misunderstanding. It wasn't. I have the text message. Would you like to see it? He paused. I think what Betty needs right now is grace, forgiveness, a chance to make things right. And I think what Betty needs is accountability, consequences, a chance to learn that actions have impacts. Forgiveness is, I'm not opposed to forgiveness, Pastor, but forgiveness without repentance is just enabling bad behavior. Has Betty apologized? Has she acknowledged what she did was wrong? Has she shown any indication that she understands why I'm hurt? Silence. That's what I thought, I said. When she's ready to actually apologize, not explain, not justify, but genuinely apologize, I'll be ready to listen. Until then, I'm not interested in mediation. Laura. Thank you for calling, Pastor. I hung up and turned my phone off. The silence that followed felt like relief. At 7:30 p.m., my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. Emma stood there, backpack over one shoulder, looking small and uncertain. I opened the door immediately. Sweetheart, can I stay here tonight, please? Of course, always. She came inside and I could see she'd been crying. Her eyes were red mascara smudged. She dropped her backpack by the door and just stood there looking lost. Are you hungry? I asked. She shook her head. Come sit. We went to the living room. I sat on the couch. Emma curled up next to me the way she used to when she was little. I put my arm around her and we just sat there for a while not talking. Finally she spoke. Mom is losing it. I'm sorry you're in the middle of this. I'm not in the middle. I'm on your side. That surprised me. Emma. Grandma, what Mom did was wrong. The text message was mean. Taking my college money was worse. And then expecting you to pay for lunch after uninviting you. She shook her head. That's crazy. She's under a lot of pressure. So are you, but you don't steal from people. The word steal hung in the air. It was the truth, but hearing my granddaughter say it made it real in a new way. When did she take the money? I asked gently. Emma wiped her eyes. Last year, November. She said her business needed an investment. She said it was temporary, a loan. She'd pay me back in 3 months. And it's been 18 months. When I ask about it, she gets defensive, says I'm being materialistic, that family should support each other, that Grandpa would want her to use it if she needed it. Your grandfather left that money specifically for you, for college. I know, that's what makes it worse. She's using Grandpa's memory to justify taking my future. Smart kid, saw right through the manipulation. There's something else, Emma said quietly. Something I didn't tell you at lunch. What is it? Last month, Mom asked me to not apply to out-of-state colleges. She said it was too expensive, said she needed me close by. But then, Emma's voice broke. Then she went on that Napa Valley trip with her friends, spent $3,000. I saw the credit card statement on the kitchen counter. 3,000, yeah, and when I asked her about it, she said I was being nosy, that I didn't understand adult finances. I closed my eyes. The pattern was worse than I'd thought. Betty wasn't just financially irresponsible with me. She was doing it to Emma, too. Where do you want to go to college? I asked. Berkeley, or maybe NYU. Somewhere far enough that I can breathe. Figure out who I am without being Mom's emotional support person. Emotional support person. Emma looked at me. Mom uses me like a therapist. Every night she comes to my room and vents about her day, her problems, her stress, for hours sometimes. And I listen, because what else am I supposed to do? She's my mom. That's not appropriate. I know, but if I try to set boundaries, she cries, says I'm abandoning her, says I'm the only person she has. That's not fair to you. Nothing about this is fair. Emma leaned her head on my shoulder. Grandma, am I a bad person for being on your side? No, sweetheart. You're a person with healthy boundaries. That's not the same thing. Mom says you're tearing the family apart. I'm not tearing anything apart. I'm just refusing to hold together something that was broken to begin with. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Emma said something that broke my heart. Did you ever feel like this with your mom, like you couldn't breathe around her? And there it was, the question I'd been avoiding. Yes, I admitted. I did. What did you do? I pushed her away, made excuses not to visit, kept her at arm's length. And when she died, I had to stop, take a breath. When she died, I wasn't there. I'd chosen work over being with her in her final hours, and I've regretted it every day since. Emma lifted her head to look at me. Is that why you let Mom treat you badly, because you felt guilty? Smart, too smart. Partly, yes. Grandma, you know that's not healthy, right? I do now. So what changed? Why today? I thought about it. I think I finally realized that letting people hurt you doesn't erase the hurt you caused someone else. It just creates more hurt. My mother is gone. I can't apologize to her. I can't make it right. But I can stop the pattern. I can refuse to teach my daughter and you that love means accepting mistreatment. Emma hugged me, tight. I'm proud of you. Those 4 words made the whole horrible day worth it. Monday morning, I called my attorney. Patricia Monroe had been my lawyer for 20 years. Handled my retirement paperwork, Graham's estate, various legal matters over the years. She knew me well enough to hear the determination in my voice when I said I need to make some changes. We met at her office at 2:00 p.m. Modern building floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Patricia's office was organized chaos files everywhere. 3 computer monitors, coffee mug that said I object in bold letters. She gestured to the chair across from her desk. Talk to me. I laid it all out. The text message, the pattern of financial dependence, the Mother's Day debacle, Emma's stolen inheritance. Patricia listened without interrupting, taking notes on a legal pad. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. What do you want to happen? I want all authorized access to my accounts revoked. Formally, legally, so there's no ambiguity. That's straightforward. What else? I want Emma's $5,000 returned. I'm giving Betty 30 days. If she doesn't comply, I want to know my legal options. Patricia tapped her pen against the desk. The money was in a trust. Yes, set up by Graham before he died, specifically for Emma's education. Betty is the trustee, but not the beneficiary. Then Betty taking that money is breach of fiduciary duty. That's serious, Laura. We could pursue criminal charges if you wanted to. I don't want to put my daughter in jail. I just want Emma's money back. Understood. We can start with a formal demand letter. Very official, very scary. That usually motivates people. And if it doesn't, then we file a civil suit. It won't be cheap. It won't be quick. And it will absolutely destroy your relationship with Betty. Our relationship is already destroyed. I'm just documenting the debris. Patricia studied me for a long moment. You're sure about this? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. All right, let's get started. We spent the next 2 hours going through documents, bank statements, trust paperwork, email records, every interaction I'd had with Betty over the past 5 years that involved money. The evidence was overwhelming. Jesus, Laura, Patricia said, reviewing a particularly damning series of transactions. She's been using you like a personal bank. I know. Why did you let it go on this long? Because I thought that's what mothers do, support their children, no matter what. Support, yes. Enable, no. There's a difference. I'm learning that. Patricia drafted 3 documents while I waited. 1. Revocation of authorized user status. Formal notice that Betty no longer had access to any of my accounts. 2. Cease and desist. Legal notice that Betty was prohibited from using my name credit or financial information for any purpose. 3. Demand for restitution. Formal demand for the return of Emma's $5,000 with a 30-day deadline and consequences clearly outlined. I read each document carefully. The legal language was cold, impersonal. It reduced our entire relationship to transactions and breaches. But it was necessary. I signed all 3. These will be sent by certified mail tomorrow, Patricia said. She'll receive them by Wednesday, and Laura, she's going to be furious. I know. She might try to turn the family against you. She's already doing that. She might make this ugly. It's already ugly. I'm just making it official. Patricia walked me to the elevator. Before the doors closed, she said, "For what it's worth, you're doing the right thing." I hoped she was right. The envelope arrived at Betty's house on Wednesday afternoon. I know because that's when my phone exploded. 15 missed calls in 20 minutes. Text messages flooding in so fast they were unreadable. Finally, a voicemail from Betty, her voice shaking with rage. "You sent legal papers to my house, my home. You're suing me, your own daughter. What is wrong with you? Call me back now." I didn't call back. Instead, I got a call from Sarah. "Laura, what have you done?" "What needed to be done?" "You sent legal papers, a cease and desist, a demand letter." "Yes." "Are you out of your mind?" "No. For the first time in years, I'm thinking clearly." "Betty is hysterical. She's saying you're trying to ruin her life." "I'm trying to get Emma's college money back. That's not the same thing." "You could have handled this privately." "I did. For 18 months. Betty had every opportunity to make this right. She chose not to. So now we're doing this officially. This is going to destroy the family." "The family was already broken, Sarah. I'm just refusing to pretend it wasn't." "We need to talk about this. All of us. Face to face." "I'm willing to talk, but only if everyone is prepared to be honest." "Thursday night, my house, 7 o'clock, be there." She hung up before I could respond. Thursday evening arrived with the weight of an execution date. I dressed carefully. Not too formal, not too casual. I wanted to look put together, calm and control, even if I was screaming inside. Emma was staying with me through the week. She asked if she could come to the family meeting. "Are you sure?" I asked. "It's going to be uncomfortable." "I'm sure. This is about my money, too. I should be there." I couldn't argue with that. We arrived at Sarah's house at 6:55 p.m. Cars already lined the driveway. Betty's SUV, Jennifer's sedan. A car I didn't recognize, probably Pastor David's. Sarah answered the door, her face drawn and tired. "Laura, Emma." She looked at my granddaughter with something like pity. "Sweetheart, maybe you should—" "I'm staying," Emma said firmly. Sarah didn't argue. The living room had been arranged like an intervention. Chairs in a circle. Tissues on the coffee table. Pastor David in the mediator's seat. Betty sat across from the empty chair clearly meant for me. She looked terrible, eyes puffy. No makeup, hair pulled back messily. She'd been crying, maybe for days. Jennifer sat next to her, protective. Sarah took the seat on Betty's other side. And there I was, flanked by Emma on one side and empty air on the other. Pastor David started. "Thank you all for coming. I know this is a difficult time for your family, but I believe with open hearts and honest communication, we can find a path forward." Betty immediately cut in. "She sent me legal papers." "I know. She's suing me, her own daughter, on Mother's Day weekend." "I'm not suing you," I corrected calmly. "I sent a demand letter. There's a difference." "What's the difference?" Betty's voice was sharp. "You're threatening me legally. You're trying to humiliate me. I'm trying to get Emma's college money back." That stopped her. "The money you took," I continued, voice steady, "without permission, from a trust fund your father set up specifically for your daughter's education. Money you were trustee of, not owner of. Money you've had for 18 months while telling Emma you'd pay her back soon." "I was going to—" "When?" Emma spoke up, her young voice cutting through the room. "When were you going to pay me back, Mom?" Betty turned to her daughter, face crumbling. "Baby, I'm working on it. You went to Napa. You bought new furniture. You got your hair done twice a month. But you didn't have $300 to start paying me back. It's not that simple." "Yes, it is." Emma's voice rose, years of frustration spilling out. You took my college money, Grandpa's gift to me, and you spent it on yourself while telling me we couldn't afford for me to apply to out-of-state schools. Jennifer looked shocked. Sarah had tears in her eyes. Pastor David was frantically taking notes. Betty stood up. I did what I had to do to survive. My business was failing. I had bills I couldn't pay. I was desperate. So you stole from your daughter? I asked quietly. I borrowed, without asking, without a payment plan, without any intention of paying it back. That's not borrowing. That's stealing. The word landed like a slap. Betty's face went white, then red. How dare you? How dare I tell the truth, use accurate language. Stop making excuses for you. You've always been like this. Betty's voice broke into a scream. Perfect Laura, never makes mistakes, never struggles, never needs help, always has the answers, always knows what's right. Well, I'm not you. I'm not perfect. I'm drowning, and you just stand there judging me. The room went silent. I stood up slowly, looked at my daughter, and said the thing I should have said years ago. You think I was perfect when your father died. You were fine. I took sleeping pills for 8 months because I couldn't face the nights alone. I cried every morning in the shower. I saw a therapist twice a week for a year. I lost 15 pounds because I forgot to eat. I was so depressed I couldn't get out of bed some days. Your Aunt Sarah had to come check on me because she was afraid I'd hurt myself. Sarah nodded, tears streaming down her face now. I wasn't fine, Betty. I was dying inside. But I kept getting up, kept going to work, kept paying the bills, kept functioning. Because I thought that's what you needed from me. I thought you needed at least one parent who looked like they had it together. You never told me. You never asked. You never once said, Mom, how are you really doing? You just assumed I was fine because that's what you wanted to believe. Because if I was fine, you didn't have to worry about me. You could focus on your own grief. Betty sank back into her chair. And you know what? I continued, voice shaking now. That's okay. You were allowed to be selfish then. You just lost your father. You were allowed to fall apart. But Betty, it's been 5 years, and you're still falling apart. You're still making everything about your pain, your struggle, your needs, while expecting everyone else, especially me, to just absorb it, to just take care of you, to just enable your choices. I don't. Yes, you do. You took $47,600 from me over 5 years. Not once did you ask if I could afford it, if I needed it, if it was putting me in a difficult position. You just took. And when I finally said no, you called me a bad mother. The number hung in the air again. Betty couldn't look at anyone. Pastor David tried to intervene. Perhaps we can talk about moving forward. I'm not done, I said. Not rudely, just firmly. Betty, I love you. I will always love you. But I can't keep being your safety net. I can't keep enabling choices that hurt you and everyone around you. That's not love. That's codependency. And it ends now. Betty looked up, mascara running down her face. What does that mean? It means you have 30 days to return Emma's $5,000. Installments are fine. A payment plan is fine. But it has to be in writing and you have to stick to it. And if I don't, then I pursue legal action, for real this time. You'd really take me to court? To protect Emma, yes. Betty looked at Emma. You're okay with this, with Grandma threatening me? Emma met her mother's eyes. Grandma isn't threatening you. She's protecting me, because you won't. That broke Betty completely. She put her face in her hands and sobbed. Sarah moved to comfort her. Jennifer looked torn. Pastor David looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. And I stood there feeling the full weight of what I'd done, knowing there was no going back, knowing our relationship would never be the same, but also knowing it needed to change. After the meeting ended, no resolution, no neat conclusion, just exhaustion and raw emotions. Emma and I drove home in silence. We were almost to my apartment when she finally spoke. Grandma, can I ask you something? Always. Do you think she treats me the way she felt you treated her? I glanced at Emma, 16 years old, asking questions most adults couldn't articulate. What do you mean? Like, Mom says you were perfect, that you had it all together, that you didn't need her. So maybe... Emma struggled with the words. Maybe she keeps me close because she doesn't want to feel that way, doesn't want to feel like I don't need her. I pulled into my parking space, turned off the car, sat with that question. I think, I said carefully, that your mother and I have very similar problems. We both struggle with boundaries, with letting the people we love have space to be themselves, but we express it differently. How? I pushed my mother away, kept her at a distance, told myself I was being independent when really I was being avoidant. Your mother does the opposite. She pulls you too close, needs too much from you, tells herself she's being loving when really she's being dependent. So you both suck at relationships just in different ways. I laughed despite myself. That's actually very accurate. Emma smiled a little, then her face grew serious again. Did you really almost hurt yourself after Grandpa died? I thought about it. I didn't make plans or anything. But there were days when I didn't want to wake up. Days when the pain was so heavy I couldn't imagine carrying it for another minute. What stopped you? You. I looked at my granddaughter. I'd think about you, about missing your graduation, your wedding, your life, and I couldn't do that to you. Even on the darkest days, the thought of you kept me here. Emma's eyes filled with tears. I didn't know. I didn't want you to. You were 11 years old. You just lost your grandfather. You didn't need to worry about losing your grandmother too. But that's what I mean. Mom does the opposite. She tells me everything, every problem, every stress, every worry. And Emma's voice broke. I'm 16. I can't fix her life. I can't make her feel better, but she acts like I can. Like if I just say the right thing or do the right thing or stay close enough, she'll be okay. That's not fair to you. I know, but what am I supposed to do? She's my mom. We sat in the car, neither of us moving. Emma, where do you want to go to college? I told you, Berkeley or NYU. That's far from here. I know. Your mom will be upset. I know that too. Are you okay with that? Emma thought for a long moment. Grandma, you taught me something today. Maybe not on purpose, but you taught me anyway. What's that? That it's okay to choose yourself, even when people you love are upset about it. Even when it's hard. Even when you feel guilty. You chose yourself today. You set boundaries. You said no. And the world didn't end. It hasn't ended yet, I said wryly. Give it time. No, I think... Emma turned to look at me. I think you saved yourself. And maybe you saved Mom too, because she can't keep going like this, expecting everyone to take care of her, expecting you to fund her life, expecting me to fix her emotions. Eventually she has to stand on her own, and maybe this is how she learns. You're very wise for 16. I have a good grandmother. We got out of the car and went upstairs. Emma went straight to the guest room, her room really since she'd been staying there all week. I made tea and sat on the balcony watching the river turn silver under the evening light. My phone buzzed, a text from Betty. I'm sorry, just that. 2 words. I stared at them for a long time, wanting to believe them, wanting to respond, wanting to fix everything immediately because that's what I'd always done. But I'd learned something this week. Sometimes sorry isn't enough. Sometimes you need to sit with the broken pieces instead of rushing to glue them back together. Sometimes the only way forward is through the hard part, not around it. I typed back, I know, but we both need time. Her response came quickly. How much time? I don't know. As much as it takes. No response after that. I finished my tea and went inside. Emma was in the living room, laptop open, looking at college websites. Berkeley, NYU, Stanford, Princeton. All of them far from here. All of them expensive. All of them requiring the college fund her mother had stolen. Grandma, Emma looked up. If Mom doesn't pay me back, will you help me with college? Yes. Even if it ruins your relationship with her. My relationship with her is already complicated. But my relationship with you, that's crystal clear. I will always help you. Always. Emma smiled, went back to looking at schools. And I realized this was what breaking cycles looked like. It wasn't clean. It wasn't easy. It didn't resolve in a single conversation or a tearful apology. It was messy and painful and slow. But it was happening. The certified letter arrived at my door on day 29th. I'd been counting. Not obsessively, but the deadline had been circling in my mind like a hawk. 30 days. That's what I'd given Betty. 30 days to show me she could take responsibility for once in her life. I opened the envelope with hands that weren't quite steady. Inside was a formal payment plan typed and notarized, signed by both Betty and Patricia Monroe, my attorney. Repayment agreement for trust funds. Total amount owed $5,000. 00 payment schedule. Month 1 to 6, 300 month e-wallet 800. Month 7 to 12, 350 to month E2 100. Month 13, 15, 367 month E01 100. Total repayment period 15 months terms. Payments due first of each month. Late payments accrue 5% interest. Default on 2 consecutive payments triggers legal action. All payments made directly to Emma Richards' college savings account. The paper shook in my hands. Not from anger this time, from something else. Relief maybe, or surprise, or the strange feeling of a boundary actually being respected. A sticky note was attached to the bottom, Betty's handwriting. Mom, I know this doesn't fix everything, but it's a start. First payment already sent. B. I checked Emma's college account on my phone. Sure enough, $300 had been deposited that morning. Day 29. She'd waited until the last possible moment, but she'd done it. I sat down at my kitchen table and let myself feel what I'd been holding back for weeks. Not triumph, not vindication, just exhausted relief that maybe possibly something was shifting. My phone buzzed. A text from Betty. Did you get it? I typed back, yes. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Can we talk sometime? I stared at those words. A month ago, I would have said yes immediately. Would have rushed to fix things, to smooth over the rough edges. But I'd learned something in these weeks of silence. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is wait. Maybe, but not yet. The dots appeared again, then stopped. No response. I forwarded the payment plan to Patricia with a note. First payment received. Please monitor account and notify me of any issues. Her response came within minutes. Will do. Proud of you for holding the boundary. I wasn't sure proud was the right word. I felt more like someone who'd survived a storm and was now looking at the wreckage trying to figure out what could be salvaged. Emma came home from school that afternoon and I showed her the payment plan. She read it carefully, her young face serious. When she looked up, her eyes were wet. She actually did it. She did. I didn't think... Emma's voice broke. I didn't think she would. Neither did I. Emma set the paper down and hugged me. Hard. The kind of hug that says everything words can't. When she pulled back, she asked, Does this mean things will go back to normal? No, but maybe we can build something better than normal. The payments came like clockwork. Month 1, 300, on time. Month 2, 300, 3 days early. Month 3, 300, on the first 8:00 a.m. I watched Emma's college account grow, each deposit a small proof that change was possible. But the real change wasn't in the money. It was in the text message I got in month 2. I started therapy, twice a week, Dr. Harper. She's helping me understand some things about myself. Thought you should know. I read that message 5 times. Therapy. Betty was actually going to therapy. I responded, That's good. I'm glad you're taking care of yourself. No response needed. None came. Month 4 brought another message. I got a job, real job, not consulting. Marketing director at Henderson & Associates. Benefits. Steady paycheck. I can actually plan my finances now. Feels weird. This time I called her. She answered on the second ring. Mom, congratulations on the job. A pause. You're calling me? It's good news. It deserves a call. I could hear her breathing. Then thank you. For everything. For not giving up on me even when you had every right to. I didn't give up. I just stopped enabling. Dr. Harper says there's a difference. There is. Another pause. Then Betty said something that made my throat tight. I'm learning that in therapy. How to tell the difference between support and enabling. How to ask for help without demanding it. How to take responsibility without drowning in shame. Her voice cracked. I'm learning a lot of things I should have learned a long time ago. It's not too late. Isn't it I've already done so much damage? Damage can be repaired. It takes time. It takes work. But it's possible. Are we possible? Can we ever? She couldn't finish. I don't know yet, Betty. But I'm not saying no. I'm just saying not yet. Okay. She sounded small. Young. like the little girl who used to climb into my lap after a nightmare. I can wait. After we hung up, I sat with the conversation. It wasn't healing. Not yet. But it was honest. And honesty felt like the first real foundation we'd built in years. Month 6. Emma was deep in college applications. Her room at my apartment had become command central: brochures, essays, financial aid forms spread across every surface. "Grandma, can you read this?" She handed me her personal statement for Berkeley. I put on my reading glasses and read, "My grandmother taught me that love without boundaries is not really love at all. When she refused to enable my mother's financial irresponsibility, she wasn't being cruel. She was being honest. She showed me that the most loving thing we can do for people we care about is to hold them accountable for their choices." I looked up. "Emma, this is beautiful." "Is it too personal?" "No, it's real. That's what they're looking for." She smiled. "Mom read it yesterday." "What did she say?" "She cried. Then she said, 'Your grandmother is the strongest person I know. I hope someday you'll say that about me, too.'" I had to look away, had to blink several times. Month 8 brought an unexpected visitor. Betty showed up at my apartment on a Saturday morning. No call ahead, just a knock on the door. I opened it to find her standing there with 2 coffees and a bag of bagels from the shop we used to go to when she was in high school. "I know you said not yet," she started quickly, "but I wanted to see you. No agenda, no drama, just coffee, if you're willing." I should have said no, should have held my boundary, but she looked different, lighter somehow. The hard edges that had been sharpening for years looked softer. "Come in." We sat on my balcony watching the river, eating bagels with too much cream cheese, the way we both liked them. "The payments are going okay?" I asked. "Yeah, actually they're easier than I thought. Turns out when you have a budget and stick to it, money isn't as scary." "Revolutionary concept." She smiled a little. "Dr. Harper is helping me understand why I was so bad with money. It wasn't about not knowing how to budget. It was about..." She struggled. "It was about control, or lack of it. When my marriage fell apart, when my business wasn't working, when everything felt chaotic, spending money made me feel powerful, in control, even when I wasn't. And now I'm learning other ways to feel powerful, like setting goals and actually achieving them, like paying my bills on time, like..." She stopped. "Like earning back your trust." I took a sip of coffee. "That's going to take time." "I know. I'm not asking you to trust me yet. I'm just asking, can you watch me try?" I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, saw the woman she was trying to become, not just the one she'd been. "Yes, I can do that." March of Emma's senior year. The acceptance letters started arriving. Berkeley, NYU, Stanford, UC San Diego. Emma got into every school she applied to. We were at my apartment when the Berkeley acceptance came. Emma opened the thick envelope with shaking hands, read the first line, "Congratulations," and screamed. I hugged her. She was laughing and crying at the same time. "I got in. Grandma, I got in." "You did it, sweetheart." "We did it, you and me." My phone rang. "Betty." "Mom, did Emma get her letters today?" "Berkeley accepted her." I heard Betty's sharp intake of breath. "Then that's wonderful." But her voice sounded strained. "Betty, I'm happy for her. I am. She stopped. "She's really going to leave." "Yes. And I'll be here. Alone." I understood what she wasn't saying. The fear, the loneliness, the reality that Emma was choosing something Betty couldn't control. "You won't be alone," I said quietly. "You'll be independent. There's a difference." "What if I can't do it?" "You've been doing it for 8 months now. You've kept your job, made your payments, gone to therapy. You're already doing it." "But with Emma here..." "Emma being there was part of the problem, Betty. You needed her too much. She needed space to be herself, not your emotional support." Silence on the other end. Then Dr. Harper says the same thing. "Smart woman. When can I see Emma to congratulate her?" I looked at Emma, raised my eyebrows in question. She nodded. "Come over. She's here now." Betty arrived 20 minutes later with flowers and a card. When Emma opened the door, Betty pulled her into a tight hug. "I'm so proud of you, baby. So, so proud." Emma hugged her back. "Thanks, Mom." They sat on the couch together looking at the acceptance packet. Betty asked questions about dorms, about majors, about the campus. Normal mom questions. I stayed in the kitchen giving them space, but close enough to intervene if needed. "Mom," Emma said carefully, "I know this is far. I know you wanted me closer." "I did. I do." Betty's voice was steady. "But this isn't about what I want. It's about what you need. And you need this. You need to go out there and be brilliant and make your own life. Away from me. Away from all of this. I'll come home for holidays. I know. But Emma..." Betty took her daughter's hands. "Even when you're home, it's going to be different. You're going to be different. You're going to have your own life, your own friends, your own experiences. And I need to be okay with that." "Are you?" "I'm learning to be." Emma leaned her head on Betty's shoulder. "I'm scared." "Good. That means it matters." "What if I fail?" "Then you'll learn from it, and you'll try again. That's what your grandmother taught me." I ducked my head, pretending to be very focused on making fresh coffee. 1 year after the Mother's Day incident, Emma was finishing her freshman year at Berkeley. Her social media was full of photos, study groups, campus events, new friends. She looked happy, thriving. Betty had paid back $4,200 of the $5,000. Only 3 payments left. I met her for lunch at a cafe downtown. Our first planned meeting, not accidental or forced by circumstances. Just 2 adults choosing to spend time together. She looked good. Really good. Her skin had a healthy glow. Her eyes were clear. She'd cut her hair shorter, professional but stylish. "How's work?" I asked. "Good. Really good, actually. They're promoting me to senior director next month. 20% raise." "Betty, that's wonderful." "Yeah, it is," she smiled. "I can actually save money now. Have an emergency fund." Crazy concept. "How's therapy?" "Hard, but helpful. Dr. Harper is having me work on..." She paused. "On the relationship I had with Dad. How his death affected me. How I used you as a replacement for the security he provided." That was a lot to unpack. "Go on," I said. "Dad was always the safety net. The one who said yes when you said no. The one who gave me money without asking questions. And when he died..." Betty's eyes filled with tears. "When he died, I tried to turn you into him, make you be both parents, give me unconditional support the way he did." "Your father enabled you sometimes." "I know. Dr. Harper says that too, but I loved him for it, and I resented you for not being like him, for having boundaries, for asking hard questions, for, She stopped. "For being the actual parent." I reached across the table and took her hand. "Your father loved you deeply. So do I. We just showed it differently." "I'm starting to understand that." We sat there for a moment, hands linked across the table, years of misunderstanding starting to untangle. "Mom," Betty said quietly, "I'm almost done paying Emma back. 3 more months. And when I am," she looked up, "I want to pay you back too." "Betty, not all of it. I know I can't afford $47,000, but some, over time. 1,000 a month maybe, for as long as it takes." "That's not necessary." "Yes, it is. For me. I need to do this. To prove to myself that I can. That I'm not that person anymore." I studied her face, saw the determination there, the growth. "Okay," I said. "If that's what you need." It is. 2 years after the text message that changed everything. My phone buzzed at 8:00 a.m. on Mother's Day morning. I braced myself, old instincts kicking in. But the message was simple. "Happy Mother's Day, Mom. I made reservations at the Riverside Cafe for breakfast. 10:00 a.m. Just us. I'm paying. Will you come? No demands, no assumptions, just an invitation." I typed back, "I'll be there." I arrived at 9:55 a.m. Betty was already there, sitting at a table outside with a view of the water. She'd brought flowers, a simple bouquet of daisies, my favorite. She stood when she saw me. We hugged. A real hug, not the stiff, obligatory kind. "You look beautiful, Mom." "So do you." We sat. A waitress brought menus. We ordered French toast for me, omelet for her, coffee for both. "Emma's coming back this afternoon," Betty said. "She wanted to be here for this." "How's she doing?" "Amazing. She's thinking about studying abroad next semester. Japan or maybe Spain. She asked my opinion but made it clear the decision is hers. Good for her. Yeah, good for her. Betty smiled. I'm learning to be okay with not being needed. Turns out being wanted is better anyway. Our food arrived. We ate in comfortable silence for a while, watching kayakers on the river families walking past life happening around us. Mom, Betty said finally, I need to say something, and I need you to really hear it. I'm listening. 2 years ago, I told you that you weren't a good mother. That was the cruelest thing I've ever said to anyone. It was wrong. It was manipulative. It was me projecting my failures onto you. She took a shaky breath. The truth is, you're the best mother I could have asked for. You set boundaries when I needed them. You held me accountable when no one else would. You loved me enough to let me fall. And that's the hardest kind of love there is. Tears were streaming down her face now. I'm so sorry, Mom, for that text, for everything, for the years I wasted being angry at you for things you didn't do, for not seeing how much you were hurting after Dad died, for taking and never giving back. For I reached across the table and took her hand. Betty, I forgive you. She looked up, surprised. Just like that? No, not just like that. You've spent 2 years showing me that you meant it, that you were changing, that you were willing to do the hard work. The forgiveness is for all of that, not just the apology. She squeezed my hand. Thank you. But I need to apologize too. Mom, you don't. Yes, I do. I taught you some unhealthy patterns. I modeled pushing people away when they got too close. I confused financial support with emotional support. I didn't tell you about my own struggles because I wanted to look strong. And that taught you that showing weakness was wrong, that needing help was shameful. I took a breath. I did the same thing to my mother, pushed her away, chose convenience over connection, and then she died before I could make it right. I don't want that to happen with us. It won't, Betty said firmly. We're not that story anymore. We're writing a different one. At 2:00 p.m., Emma arrived from Berkeley, bursting through my apartment door with her usual energy. Where are my favorite people? Betty and I were on the balcony, still talking hours after breakfast had ended, making up for lost time. Emma hugged us both. So how did it go? Good, I said. Better than good, Betty added. Honest, Emma grinned. That's what I wanted to hear. She looked at both of us. You know what I realized at school? What we said in unison. I come from a family of really strong women. Women who make mistakes but own them. Women who set boundaries even when it's hard. Women who choose honesty over comfort. She looked at me. Grandma, you taught me that. And Mom, you're learning it. That makes us pretty badass. Betty laughed. When did you get so wise? I have good teachers. That evening, the three of us cooked dinner together in my kitchen. Nothing fancy spaghetti and salad, but it was the first meal we'd shared in 2 years where everyone wanted to be there. Emma told stories about college. Betty talked about her promotion. I shared about the watercolor class I'd been taking. Normal conversation. Easy. Light. At one point, Emma's phone buzzed with a text. She glanced at it and laughed. It's Aunt Sarah. She wants to know if World War III is happening here. Betty rolled her eyes. Tell her we're fine. Better than fine, I corrected. Emma typed a response, then set her phone down. You know what's weird? 2 years ago, if someone had told me this is where we'd end up, I wouldn't have believed them. What changed? Betty asked. Everything. Emma looked at me. Grandma changed by refusing to keep enabling. Mom changed by actually doing the work. And I changed by realizing I didn't have to fix everyone. To change, I said, raising my water glass. To honesty, Betty added, raising hers. To us, Emma finished. The real ones. We clinked glasses. Later, after Emma had gone to bed in the guest room and Betty was getting ready to leave, she paused at the door. Mom, I know we're not all the way there yet. I know I still have payments to make. I know trust takes time. But, she smiled. But we're going to be okay, aren't it? Yes, I said without hesitation. We are. She hugged me one more time. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. For real this time. Happy Mother's Day to you, too. She looked confused. I'm not a... Yes, you are. And you're learning to be a good one. That's all any of us can do. After she left, I stood on my balcony looking at the river in the darkness. The water moved steadily forward, always changing, never stopping. 2 years ago, I'd sat here reading a text that broke my heart. Tonight, I stood here with hope for the first time in years. The path forward wouldn't be perfect. There would be setbacks, hard conversations, days when old patterns tried to resurface. But we were trying, all of us, and that was enough. Emma came home for Thanksgiving. She'd spent the semester in Tokyo, sent us photos of temples and street food in her study group at a cafe overlooking the city. Betty and I picked her up from the airport together. When Emma walked through the arrivals gate, she screamed and ran to us, hugging us both at once. "I missed you guys so much." In the car, she chattered nonstop about Japan, about her classes, about the boy she'd met who was studying architecture. Betty asked questions, listened, didn't make it about her. I watched them in the rearview mirror, mother and daughter finally finding their balance. "Oh," Emma dug in her backpack. "I brought you both something." She handed Betty a package. Inside was a delicate silk scarf hand-painted with cherry blossoms. "Emma, this is beautiful. I thought of you when I saw it. The lady who made it told me cherry blossoms represent new beginnings." Betty's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, baby." Emma handed me a package. A watercolor set, professional grade with Japanese brushes. "For your classes. The art store owner said these are the best." I hugged the box to my chest. "This is perfect." "I also—" Emma pulled out her phone. "I wrote about us, for my personal essay contest at school. Want to hear it?" "Yes," we both said. Emma cleared her throat and read, "2 years ago, my grandmother did something that changed our family forever. She said no, not out of anger or spite, but out of love. She refused to continue enabling patterns that were hurting all of us. And in that refusal, she taught me the most important lesson of my life, that real love requires boundaries. My mother learned to take responsibility. I learned to let go of what wasn't mine to fix. And my grandmother learned that she deserved respect, even from the people she loved most. We're not a perfect family. We're still learning, still growing, still making mistakes. But we're honest now. And honesty, I've discovered, is the foundation everything else is built on." Emma looked up. "I won first place." Betty was crying. Happy tears this time. I was crying too. "I'm so proud of you," I said. "Of both of you," Betty added, "for teaching me what real strength looks like." We drove home through the city lights, 3 generations of women who'd learned the hard way that love without boundaries isn't love at all, and that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to make things easy. Because easy isn't the same as good, and good is always worth fighting for.